Okay.
So once you, yeah, you have to make sure that you're listening and you're making sure that the person understands what you are saying,
Right.
and it's on you to understand what they're saying and to make sure that the message you're trying to get across is what they're hearing, and that is very important. What I say maybe not what is what you hear, and understanding that is the first step. And that means sometimes you will have to repeat what you're saying, and that could be annoying, but you have to state that's why you're saying it. So once you've talked to somebody and you figure out what you're really trying to understand is one or two things, is that the task that you're giving them, do they have are they competent in doing that task, or are they not committed? So it always comes to a competency versus commitment issue. So if they're not competent, if they don't have the skills, that's easy. You can then give them the skills, and then they're able to take care of the task.
Right.
Whereas if they have the skills but they're not committed, that's a different issue, right? And that's more motivational. And then you have to address that, right? And understand why is it that they're not motivated? Why is it they're not committed? And then once you understand that, then you can take the appropriate action.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, like you said, that's something that you learn over time. It's not something that you're just born with or something that, you just yeah, it's something that you develop over time, you know. And I think it comes through experience. Um, I wanted to
Exactly.
I wanted to ask you about about eccentricity, and sort of people that are especially like, and this can be expressed through fashion obviously, but also through behavior and in the way people approach life and the way that they carry themselves. So you know especially in fashion, is there a place for eccentricity, and how is it expressed? How do people express their personalities or their characters through through what they wear?
Well, you know what? There's different types of personalities, obviously, right? And you have people that are eccentric that really don't that pretty well like to do things their own way, and they're called eccentric because they don't follow any norms,
Mhm.
and they may do things in a different way, right? And sometimes people consider that maybe weird, or but different people are are should be allowed to express themselves the way they want to express themselves, right? Especially if they're not hurting anybody, right? So what fashion allows people to do is is to sh- express how they feel, right? And some people care about that, some people don't, right? Some people may just look at clothing and fashion as a utilitarian garment, right? Some people will say would like to dress up or would like to wear something because they want to make a statement, right? So, it's up to the individual. What it does do, though, it does allow you to express or not express yourself,
Right.
right? So, Steve Jobs only wanted to wear a black T-shirt or sweatshirt and a pair of jeans and running shoes. That was it. And that became his sort of look, his uniform, his theme. Keeps it really simple, right? So it depends where you're at, right? And it depends a lot on your personality. Somebody who's more expressive will want to probably express themselves more in what they wear, right? So you have to consider the person, but clothing is an avenue of expression, right? No different than music is an avenue of expression,
Yes.
right? Or art is a form of expression.
So do you see clothes and fashion as art and as high art? Because I mean, like, especially well, I mean, as you know, there's things like Paris Fashion Week, and and women pay millions of dollars to have a haute couture dress, that's made especially for them. Um, so like, so would you say, like, with men's fashion, and and like, that there's that same scope for the imagination?
Well, there is. Look, you have to look at it just like everything. There's levels, right?
Yes.
So if you look at, say, as you mentioned, haute couture fashion, which which is about inspiring, which is a right. It's about design and ideas, and what ends up happening is that you'll see a few things on the runway. Some of it gets made. Some of it is just to spark a thought.
Mm,
Okay, some of it is not wearable for everyday fashion, but it's there as an inspiration, and you have to, and what I kind of the analogy I use a lot with fashion is cars. You see, you can get a Toyota Yaris to take you from A to B, and you'll get there fine. And you can spend more money and get a Volkswagen or a BMW or a Mercedes or Porsche or a Bentley or a Rolls Royce, or then you can get into some supercars, right? All accomplish the same things, but they look different,
mm,
and they cost, and their pricing is different.
yes.
And some are, and it may not be practical to take a supercar off-roading, right? So same thing with fashion. You know, you get inspiration from different pieces and different people, and designer fashion is just like it is, and it can be compared to art because it's somebody's imagination, and that's what makes it so valuable. So when you see somebody like Dolce and Gabbana make an outfit, a runway show, you're looking at what their creativity, and and their and something that they have inspired done from their inspiration. And so when you see price tags on that to be very high, well, you're not actually just paying for the actual cost of the cloth. You're actually paying for somebody whose imagination created that.
Yes.
Because if anybody could do it, then everybody would be doing it. It's no different than looking at a painting,
Mm,
right? Somebody created that,
sure.
right? Or sculpture, right? That's all creativity, right?
Yeah.
And so there's value in that, and that's where the value comes from. It's from music, and music is such an easy one because you have a piece of music that can change your mood. Okay, it's not that music is difficult to play because lots of people can play it, but who composed it, right? Right. And when you look at somebody like Beethoven, or you look at somebody like Stevie Wonder or whatever, these people have made music that have inspired people. That if somebody hears a song, if you hear a song and your mood is down, it might lift your mood. That's very powerful, right? And you've heard the expression, if you if you look good, you feel good, or you're wearing something that you like can change your mood, right?
Right.
These are all relative. I'm not right, so you can compare it. There is a comparison for saying what the effect a piece of art can have, a piece of music, or some fashion item, right? It's just that sometimes we trivialize fashion because it's something you're wearing,
Right.
but it could be important to some people.
For sure. And actually, like, I like the parallels that you drew, and it kind of makes me think about the fact that, I mean, this podcast is called conceptualism, and so it's like people are selling the idea or they're selling the concept because it's not just the actual product. It's like, when Banksy shredded that painting, in the middle of an auction, it actually raised the value astronomically when he actually shredded the painting because it was the idea. Now it was suddenly not just a painting, it was a work of conceptual art. So fashion, I think, has the same sort of, like where it's not just the garment you're wearing, it's the idea behind it. It's like who did it, like you said, whose imagination conjured this into reality.
Well, and just think about the different scenarios that you're using the clothing in, right? Um, why do people dress up for their wedding day,
Mm,
right? I mean, they'll get something special. If they normally just wear jeans and a t-shirt to work, they might wear a suit because look, they recognize that this is a way to symbolize and honor your special day. And they'll wear something really cool and they'll look to get something different,
right.
right? And
And
some
there's
people just some people want to be simple, and some people want to be really what's I don't
expressive.
they really, thank you. That's a good word.
Yeah, well, and I mean, like an occasion, like let's say they've won the Grammy Award, or I don't know, they're getting, an Academy Award or something like that, or they're going to a gala, like the Met Gala maybe. Then those are all occasions where they want to pull out all the stops, to use a pipe organ
Well, they want to
metaphor.
stand out,
Yeah.
and they want to be seen. The funny thing is, we say they want to be stand out, but it's not about standing out. It's actually about fitting in, because in order to fit in, you have to look a certain way,
Uh-huh.
right? You'll see some people there that go there and are not dressed up at all, and they're also expressing themselves, right?
Yeah.
But the ones that sort of fit in and I say that actually conform are the ones that are very dressed up,
Right.
right? And
Right.
listen, some and it people like to do that because they also feel good, right? Dressing up is makes you feel a certain level, right? It allows you to don a different personality,
Mm.
which is another thing about clothing that you know, uh, people get to do, which is one of the things that I say when a young guy is getting married, they always get this feeling of trying to channel their inner James Bond by looking really dressed up. And that's the feeling that they get, and that's what their spouse looks at them as they go, wow. And that's at that moment in time, that's who they are, right? They are the only person, and that's important, right? So there's a lot of things about clothing and that allows you to feel good and just and allow you to be somebody else at times, and it gives you confidence, which is the other big thing that clothing can do, right? So
Yes.
it gives you self-esteem, it gives you confidence to be who you want to be.
Indeed. Indeed. And speaking of, non-conformity and some of the risks I guess people have taken in fashion. I mean, one that really comes to mind is I think Lady Gaga's meat suit, where she wore like, a dress made out of meat on stage. Like, that's that's really pushing it, but I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I think is really interesting because like, it's making a hell of a statement. It's saying that I'm not worried about what you think about me. I'm gonna do what I want, and I'm gonna
Exactly, and
yeah.
people respect her for that. You know what? She's talented, but you know what? Again, that's the other part about fashion where you get to you get to be, as you say, nonconformist or eccentric in a way to say, hey, look, my clothes don't define me, and what I'm wearing doesn't define me. So whether it's good or bad, right? These are the it's sometimes it's very paradoxical sometimes in certain situations, right? Depending on the person.
Definitely. Definitely. I wanted to ask you about smoking jackets and sort of the modern take on smoking jackets and how it's become it's become acceptable to wear a smoking jacket in place of, I don't know, tails or a tuxedo, whereas before it was a garment you would wear in the home.
So it has evolved. You can smoking jackets, they originated back in the Victorian era as a way of protecting the you would wear a smoking jacket over your existing clothes, suits, so as to protect your clothing from the ashes of a cigar. Okay. And and over time it evolved, especially in the early 70s, I think in 80s, it started to evolve more so into replacing just the tuxedo, right? So having something that was a little bit more eccentric, a little bit more ostentatious, so that you can make an individual statement,
Mm.
right? And that's where it's evolved to now. So you will see a lot of jackets, especially I think Tom Ford was one of the primary motivators and reasons for the jacket becoming very popular, and and for people saying, yeah, you know what, I want to wear that. Unlike Tom Ford or some of these other celebrities where they didn't have a ton of occasions to wear it, they wanted to wear it whenever they had an opportunity. And what's happened now is that that type of jacket it has become a norm to wear for any occasion, because you can also dress it down. You don't have to wear it super formal, right? And people just like to wear it, and they like the jacket. They like the pattern, so they want to wear it. And
And like
and we're happy to.
you could, I mean, if you really wanted to, and like I don't know if anyone's ever done this. If you really wanted to, you could wear it like with a t-shirt and shorts and then put like a smoking jacket on top, you know.
You could. Most people will generally wear with a t-shirt and jeans if they're going to do that,
Right.
right? With a dressy jean, just right. But there's no reason why you can't,
Right.
right?
Because like
You know,
Angus Young, the lead guitarist of AC/DC, his signature look was he would wear a tie, a white shirt, and a jacket, but then shorts, you know, and that was his signature look. He wore that everywhere, and it became a
yeah,
thing. Like people started copying this, and they were like, and but he was the person that like sort of decided, I'm gonna do this and wear this.
yeah, exactly. And that's been done in the Bahamas for a long time, where
Yes.
you would wear long shorts and and a blazer with it. That's a great look. So again, there's a lot of different ways to do it, right? It's about how comfortable you feel in it, and if you feel comfortable in it, then you'll be confident wearing it, and then it will always look good.
Yes.
But if you're not confident, if you're self-aware,
Mm,
it will never look good, because you're not going to be feeling it, and you're going to be self-conscious.
right. And I wanted to ask you about like, unusual fabric choices. So like for example, I mean, maybe like it's possible to make a suit out of, Masai shukas, or like sari material, for example. Just, or you know, I don't know, out of a certain kind of velvet. I don't know. There's so many possibilities like with mixing and matching fabrics, I think, to
There are. I think there's no reason why you can't physically do it. Just you have to look at the properties of the fabric,
mm,
right? And a sari fabric might be a bit too thin. It might need a backing, right? So it all depends, right? Same thing. The Masai blanket is something that's just basically it's a blanket, right? So of course you could make a jacket out of it or a suit out of it. Might be not be too comfortable of a pant, but of course you can do it.
right.
But there will be some things that you can that would work well.
um and like there's I think I'm sure you've seen the Matrix. There's that outfit that Neo wears, which is like a Nehru jacket, but then it becomes a skirt, or like it becomes like a flowing garment at the bottom, and like it's
Well, it is. It's basically a long, right? It's a long jacket, and it has to flare out because otherwise he wouldn't be able to move,
yes,
right? So basically that's what ends up happening. So basically, it's a close-fitting jacket where it buttons up. So it's it's fitted on the top and it's loose on the bottom, which allows him to do all the have
martial
the
arts,
action movement.
right?
Yeah, yeah. No, it looks great.
And then there's also
It looks very cool.
like the kinds of stuff that monks would wear, like the like the Christian monks would wear, like these outfits where like the top was, again, like kind of like the Neo jacket, like it's all fitted on the top, and then the bottom is all flared out and has like if you were to twirl with it, like it would look like a Sufi robe.
Yeah, yeah. There's all sorts of different types of clothing, right? And those are all very cultural and have different uses,
Yes,
right? And probably not mainstream for the most part.
yeah, definitely. And then like there's also the robes of honor, like it like if you were in Persia in the 17th or 16th century, if the king wanted to honor you, then he would give you a robe of honor, and it would kind of look like the robe that the imam would wear, or the robe that the officers would wear, like it's like a long jacket, kind of like a smoking jacket,
Yeah,
but then it has it goes all the way down past your knees.
yeah, yeah. So I wouldn't say it's like a. I mean, look, the fabric is
The fabric is similar, like
it's
it has
very
that.
well, it's very cultural, right? It all depends, right? And they have a motif on it, but it's more of a robe that you wear over, right? So it's
Yes,
more of it's more of like it's a symbolic designation of your role or your title.
definitely. Yes. Yes. And then also like the African kings, like for example Mansa Musa. There was an exhibition of him, not of him, but you know of his time period at the Aga Khan Museum, and it was showing the outfits that he was wearing, and they were, I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It was like there was specific shades of blue and red that were so vibrant, so rich, and like it looked absolutely amazing, but it was not like anything I'd ever seen before. So it was, again, very specific and very cultural.
Well, that's it exactly, right? You have different cultures, you have different people, and you have to understand the origin of the cloth, and it first starts with what's around them, right,
Mm,
and what's available, right, and then over the years they may get through travelers and through merchants different fabrics. But if you were to look at definitely places like Nigeria, Ghana, right, very very bold robes, clothing, colors, right? So you'll find that in a lot of cultures, right? And it's great because they all have their own look,
definitely.
and it's also functional, for that matter as well.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me about the role of accessories. So particularly, like ties, bow ties, scarves, cufflinks, like all these little details, sort of like make an outfit pop, I would say, like, or even a hat. Like for example, Thelonious Monk, the jazz pianist, he was known for wearing these really funky hats that kind of looked like a fez,
Well,
and that was his
well,
signature.
well, exactly. Well, it allows you to express your own style, right? So if you want to be conservative in what you wear, your ties, your cufflinks, your shirts, hats, scarves, that allows to give you a certain look,
Mm,
and that's how you can express yourself, right? So if you can express yourself by always wearing a French cuff shirt, right? So there's different ways, right? And that's what accessories really do. It allows you, because you can have 10 people wearing a blue suit, but they may wear a different color tie. They may wear different types of shirts, different cufflinks, right? Those are always things that you may not always see the same, because that's where personal expression is is allowed to flourish,
Hmm.
because the cost of those items isn't as great.
Right.
And plus, there's a lot of different things you can do to stand out as an individual.
So like there's a really cool jacket that you made for I'm forgetting the name of this musician, but it was an asymmetrical jacket with like skull buttons.
Yeah, yeah, that was made for Rob Baker of the Tragically Hip.
Yes. Yes. So that like so you guys at King and Bay, you cater to these kinds of sort of more unusual requests, right? Like where like the buttons are skull buttons, and and it buttons, instead of buttoning like this straight down, it buttons across the side. It's asymmetrical.
Yes, because we own our own manufacturing, we're able to create anything we'd like, right? So we're able to work with somebody and create something, right? That's a little bit different. And with Rob, you know what? He liked the idea of having a skull button, so we sourced out and found the right buttons for him, and we created something that was a little bit different, right? And for him, which turned out fantastic. He wore that at the Junos, so that was really good.
And then talk to me about tails. So conductors generally they will wear tails. When they're conducting, to be one step above sort of the rest of the orchestra, who might all just be wearing suits or might be wearing a shirt and a tie. So
Well, it depends. So you see, so the tails are all part of white white tie. That's what tails are associated with first.
hmm,
They're associated with white tie, which is even dressier than black tie.
right.
And obviously, you're wearing a white tie, you're wearing a tails coat, which is slightly different than a morning coat that you'd have in England,
Yes.
right? So, and and more people wear morning coats than they wear a tails coat, okay? Because that's very specifically cut short, whereas a morning coat is actually longer in the front and it actually then blends to a longer length at the back.
Hmm.
Whereas the tails just cuts right across the front on an angle and then goes down. So, you know, that's very, you don't see that as often. It's more entertainerish,
Hmm. Right, like
to be off,
magicians.
to be honest. Yeah,
Yeah, like a magician might wear
yeah,
tails.
possibly, yeah, yeah. But again, it's very like old school, so to speak, right?
Hmm.
This was more prevalent in the 30s, the 40s, 50s, 60s. It was more prevalent there, right? In that era, when everybody was dressed up, when wearing a suit was the standard. So you needed to go to these different levels.
Right. And so would you say like there are still occasions to wear tails today? Like I mean, like if you're going to the opera or the ballet, you might wear tails.
Mm, probably not. Probably not, because you have to be very eccentric to do that and be comfortable in your own skin, because most people won't be wearing it, right?
Hmm.
So you would wear a tuxedo at best. You know, it's also part of that thing is that, let's say you're going to a wedding and the dress for the wedding is is semi-formal, and you go in a tuxedo. Well, you're going to be more dressed than the groom. It's almost not a, it's almost, what's the right word?
You're
It's
upstaging
almost
them.
disrespectful,
Yeah, it is.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So you have to be, you have to look at those things, right? I mean, nobody can stop you, but you know what? And you can wear tails. just because you can, it doesn't always mean you should, right? There's always a time and a place for that, right? But if you like something and you want to wear it, absolutely. You just have to be prepared to make sure that you will get people looking at you. And that's why I say you have to be comfortable in your own skin.
Yes, yes. Well, and another interesting element that most people don't ever consider is a cane. You know, uh, like having a cane, not a walking cane, but like a more of a ceremonial cane or something that you would
Yeah, yeah. Again, this is all from that a bygone era where you wear a top hat and you're wearing a cane and using a cane, right? So again, it's very, very eccentric these days. You know, there are not very many hat makers now, right?
mm,
And finding a good cane is also limited to very few people who specialize in it now. Whereas back in the day, it was more prevalent, right? That's when people were wearing suits all the time. So I mean, people would dress up, and this is something that goes back even into the 1800s, right? In society, in an aristocratic society, right, or group of people.
for sure. For sure. And I mean, there's also like a cosplaying community. There's people that will dress a certain way because that's like it's part of the cosplaying thing. So I've seen people wear canes and top hats and all that kind of stuff in a cosplaying situation, but not so much in a regular day-to-day situation. You wouldn't see that as much.
Absolutely, right. And again, it's all about in you see times are always evolving, right? And the norms are always changing, right? And fashion is cyclical, right?
Yes.
And it's always updated. And there may be a time when it's going to be more prevalent, right? And more acceptable,
Mm,
right? Um, but that part is, you know, but again, like I said, is that you can wear anything. You just have to be comfortable wearing it and confident when you're wearing it,
yes.
right? And and so there has to be there's certain limitations. But if you're going to tail dinner, a white tie dinner, then wearing wearing some sort of tails is very important, right? That's the dress.
Yes.
You know, a good movie to watch is to see a lot of this is Chariots of Fire, because there are a lot of good scenes in that, especially when they're going on the ferry across to France. You'll see them dressed in classic British aristocratic dress, and you'll see the white ties and the tailcoats.
Yes.
So definitely you'll see a lot of that in that film.
Mm. Well, and then there's also clothing that's special, that's specifically made like for a particular reason, like a chef's jacket, or like a barrister or a judge, or at an even higher level, what the monarchy would wear, when they're for specific occasions, like let's say the coronation or whatever. And then there's all kinds of elements that come in, like for example, the crown, the scepter, the robe that they wear, all that kind of stuff. And then if you're a judge, that robe that you wear, like these are all specific, like occasions or specific reasons where you would wear certain kinds of clothing. So I
Yeah,
guess.
so those are, yeah, I always call that a uniform.
Okay.
You're wearing a chef jacket. That's like a standard type uniform, right?
Right.
That you wear, and you generally see it white because white is a symbol of purity, and when somebody's wearing white, you know what? It's more cleanliness, right? Or yeah, the judge is wearing a robe, um, and they all wear similar. They're basically wearing, and I don't know what the starting of it is, but you can notice that they're all wearing robes. They're all wearing a certain uniform. It's almost a sign of equality,
Mm, right.
right?
Right. An
the
egalitarian statement.
prosecutor and the defender are wearing the same, right? So everybody's on the same level,
Yes. Yes. Well, and I
right?
mean,
Same thing in the military.
yes.
Everybody is wearing the same uniform, except for what denotes your rank and your differences by you wearing a different you wearing the different insignia that that indicates whether you're a general or a colonel, but the uniform is generally the same.
Yes. Yes. So I guess like when it comes to clothing and wearing insignia or wearing, like wearing a tie pin or say like a pin on your jacket, like a lapel pin, like I guess these are also like other ways that you can sort of signify what your, I don't know, what your allegiance is or whatever. Or like for example, a signet ring. These are all things that are also part of fashion that are not so much clothing, but they're things that you would wear that, with clothing or on top of clothing that would sort of
Yeah,
give you an idea of whatever.
yeah. It's an accessory, and it's a way of identifying yourself. For example, you know what? There's blazers or jackets that have a crest here. Could
Yes.
be a family crest, a school crest. It all denotes something, right?
Mm,
And I think those are all great, right? I mean, most people are used to wearing a school uniform
mm,
or a club uniform, but you know what? I think there's also a certain level of pride in that,
mm.
right? When you might be wearing something that represents your country, right? So these are all parts of ways that actually have meaning. At the end of the day, you could wear a lapel pin, which I'm actually wearing right now,
Yes.
which is our logo, which which symbolizes, look, I'm a part of King and Bay, and we give these to our clients as well. But again, it's something that we like, and
I have one. You
it's the
gave me one.
point of, yeah, yeah, it's a point of discussion. It's a point of pride. There's a lot of different things there, right?
Definitely.
So it's always good to identify, right? People want to identify themselves and separate themselves.
For sure.
And I think those are simple ways to express yourself.
And also like wearing a watch or a pocket watch, like there's so many different ways to wear a pocket watch, like I think that's
Yeah.
quite interesting as well.
Well, look, it's an ode to a more to a by to an older era, more British look. You know what? Look, I have a cousin who loves to wear crazy socks. His thing is he'll wear craziest socks, and he goes balls to the wall with that, and that's great. He loves it, right? That's his thing, right? And I think that's great, right? That you identify your own way of doing things. For example, Harry Rosen would always wear two different cufflinks, right?
That's
He
so,
would never wear the same cufflinks on both sleeves.
oh,
He'd wear
that's so
different
hip.
ones.
Oh, that's so hip, man. Now that you've told me that, like, I want to do that.
Yeah,
That's so
right.
cool.
So again, it's again, yeah, it's again his own point of view, right? He does
Yes.
that to this day.
Well, you had a chance to meet him, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, look, I worked for his company. I had a good relationship with him, right? And he's a great man. He accomplished phenomenal things, right? He has a unbelievable legacy, right? And his company is revered around the world, right? Everybody in the fashion world knows Harry Rosen.
Yes.
Everybody knows because everybody knows the company. Everybody knows the quality of the store. So, it's kudos to him. And subsequently his son and his grandson.
Yeah, it's a family company, and yeah, that definitely, like, having that history, having that legacy is definitely something interesting, you know. um and it's a tradition, I guess, that maybe, will continue. But I wanted to ask you about architecture and food. So, how architecture and food could inspire clothing, and also like the architecture of the lounge that is the King and Bay Lounge, like, because, like you said, it's a very desirable place to be, and also, like, it has the vibe of a speakeasy, like, where there's the curtains, and there's that level of, like, you can't just walk in, like, you make an
You
appointment.
can't give away everything here.
Sorry.
You can't. Yeah, you can't give away all these things, right? But no, what it does, what the architecture and the, well, not as much architecture as design, is that it creates an ambiance and an environment, and it propels people to, I won't say a different time or different place, but it makes the space unique, and that changes your mindset while you're here, right? Which is what we're trying to achieve, right? We want to be in an environment that is unique, that allows people to escape, right? And also feel special and feel good and know that, hey, look, they're in a place that's unique. It's almost like what happens here stays here type place, right? So when you're coming to this place, it's not something that everybody knows about,
Hmm.
right?
But
So
I mean, there are
it's
there are there are
and
like
design of the place is fantastic.
there are like videos, like, of showing off the space, and like there's videos of, like, the King and Bay experience
There,
on YouTube and stuff.
yeah, but look, I will say to you is that seeing a video of something is not the same place as being in it. Just ask yourself, seeing a video of the Louvre is not like being in the Louvre. Seeing a
No,
video of Sagrada La Familia is not the same as being there in person,
definitely.
right? So
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what you see until you're in the space. It, it's it's not the same.
for sure. Definitely. Well, and I wanted to ask you about that machine, the sewing machine. That, like like there's a really beautiful sewing machine, and in the space, and, like, was that like a machine that was custom made, or like was it something that was just found?
No, no, that's an old antique machine,
Okay,
right?
wow.
Most machines aren't custom made. Yeah, that's many years old, right? And that's look, the skill of tailoring is strives a lot on. It started off with handwork when there weren't any machines, right?
Yes.
The only machines we used were really looms for weaving the fabric,
And looms
right?
were the first
But
computers. Looms were the first
yeah,
computers.
yeah, yeah, right. So this is so yeah. So that machine is more just as an ode to history and tradition.
Hmm, for sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. So at King and Bay, you also make a pretty mean old fashioned. So, and I think it's your signature drink. So like, is there like a specific, like, was that a collaboration, or like did you guys make that in house, or what's the idea behind that?
So it is our signature drink. So part of our ethos is having a custom curated experience.
Mm,
And we custom curate all sorts of things. So we'll custom curate a cocktail. And actually, we work with somebody who created this cocktail for us quite a few years ago. And when we built our new space, it just seemed right because we were knowing for that cocktail, but it's got a special recipe. We've got a secret in making it.
mm,
So we use that. And these are some of the things that we like to do. We custom curate different cocktails, right? And
mm,
it's all about connecting with people and giving them something different and something that you can't get elsewhere,
right.
right?
Right.
It's what makes our space unique.
Yes.
And it's become the most popular drink over the last decade, the old fashioned.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. For sure. And I mean, cocktail culture has become more and more prevalent, and even speakeasy culture, like bars that are trying to look like speakeasies. That's become more and more common. Um, you know, um, and that are sort of trying to relive the prohibition era, for example. Um, and it's quite interesting, like that particular aesthetic. And then there's also the furniture and the chandeliers, like all of these things, like they create a certain space. So um, so I guess, like, and also the materials that are used create a certain effect. So like, when you guys were conceiving this new space, this new lounge, did you come to it with a definite vision, like you knew exactly what you wanted to do with it, or did you sort of give the person who designed it the creative liberty to do what they wanted with it, and and sort of play with the space, or play in the space?
So basically, we had a few specific needs that we needed for functionality. Outside of that, the person had our designer had creative license, and we had used gold in our for some of our exhibitions. We used it in our exhibition stands. We used gold in that. So that was the only thing that translated over. But our designer has a good design sense. He's created some wonderful pieces, and we were comfortable with letting him create something, and he did an outstanding job.
I agree. Yeah, it's quite remarkable. It's quite a beautiful space, um, and also like the music. So the the music that you guys play, like it's a particular kind of, like, I would call it hip hop, deep house, but like slightly edgy, a little bit like off the beaten track.
Well, no, our music will vary for who's ever in the place.
Right.
You know, we're on Spotify and stuff, and you can choose playlist. And right, the key thing is that we have 6 different zones in our space,
Mm-hmm.
or 7 different zones, so you can play different music in different areas,
Right.
right? So that's the key, right? You don't always have to hear the same thing. It's not just one. We have a lot of different zones in our space, so we can create different moods in different areas.
And then there's different kinds of buttons, right? Like people have used pearls as buttons. People have used horn, or like turtle shell, or all kinds of different things. So, so do you guys like offer that kind of thing where where someone can, like,
Yeah,
horn.
there's a variety. Yeah, there's a variety of buttons, right? And you have tortoiseshell, you have horn, you have you can use also cord and mother of pearl. So yeah, it depends on the garment, right? It depends on the garment.
Yeah, definitely. definitely. Well, hey, thank you so much for this. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I think we covered a lot of ground, and
Thank you very much for having me. It was interesting to hear the different types of questions you had, and uh, I'm thankful for having the opportunity.
well, my pleasure, and I'll let you know once it's uploaded, and have a great rest of your night, and take care.
Thanks, Afraz.
Okay.
Have a
All right.
good evening.